Hello, friends. A while ago, I wrote a poem called My Business is Stillness. And I have shared that in a few times in some kind of a poetry reading, and people are always really touched by it, as I am myself when I read it, because it really resonates with the depth of my heart that stillness is it's of the essence. And I know that does not look like it's going to do a whole lot with what's going on in the world. And I know it's not for everybody. Well, I do believe it is for everybody at some point. But many of us, we may still have something we want to experience in this world, something to live out, live through, experiment with, whatever. And there might be a much bigger drive in that than there will be in just coming back home to the stillness. But for those of us who do feel that pull, and I know there are many, many of us, and I talk to a lot of people who also feel that strong, strong pull to go back home, to be still. And I did a little video the other day called, what was it called? Stillness, simplicity, and surrender, I think. And you can go and listen to that if you're interested. But today I want to just add a little sentence to that because to the my business is stillness. Because most people's business is anything but stillness, right? It is like busy, 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 doing, 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 running, 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 racing, 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 more money, money, all this stuff. That seems to be what most people's business is. If we talk about their life, their income, the way to make income, their business, that is a very, very busy thing, trying to make ends meet and survive. That's kind of the matrix way of believing that this is what we need to do in order to live in this world. And fortunately, that is not the truth, but we have been so programmed to believe that this is the way and it is the only way. So I want to add to the sentence some words that came the other day. That is from business to isness. So instead of doing the busy, busy, doing, doing, we need to land in a place of is. And when I say that right now, that does remind me of something that Joel Goldsmith talked about. It's funny, Joel is it's so embodied in many ways in me because I've been with his teachings for so long that a lot of things he said and that I heard, whatever, 20, 30 years ago, they just pop up. And it's really nice because they're kind of something I can rest into and draw from when it shows up. So he talked about God is. That's really all we need to know. God is, or spirit is, period. That's it. And if we can learn to rest in that or realize that all there is God. Then we can relax and drop all the doing and just allow ourselves to be lived as that. But then he would sometimes add to it, God is as. So the as would be, for instance, God is Pernilla, as Pernilla. God is as, you can use your own experience of who you are. God is as whatever it is, the tree, the house, the government, the ocean, everything. But of course, there is a little snag there because it is not is or as the way we see it through our five sense mind. What we see through our senses is the duality that the mind projects out through the programming. So basically, what we see is something that is not there. There is something there, but it's not what we see with our eyes. So if we use that as God is as your name, then there needs to be an open curiosity so that God can reveal to us what that is. And that is not something we can find in the mind, because the mind is the part that has separated itself from God is. It's almost like it says God is not. That's why I have to do it myself. Now, of course, if all there is God, then that whole programming matrix must also be that. So I'm not denying that. But if it's not realized and experienced as that, then it's not. God is only where God is realized. And as that comes out of my mind, my mouth, that is also one that I've heard from Joel many, many times. So you can see it's not something I think, oh, what did Joel say? It's kind of there. It's like, yeah, God is only where God is realized. So when we say God is, yeah, that's true, but only when God is realized. And that is, of course, the work that we are all doing. That is the business of isness, to realize that God is, and not believe that what our eyes see is God, because what our eyes see is basically the illusion of who we think we are. And there might be a little sigh in there where it's like, oh, thank God I am not who I think I am. There is a relief in that, at least for me, when I remember that. And if I get caught in something like, oh, and then I can relax, and then I can drop back and allow is to show me what is what it is as me, not as what I think it is. But then God or divine or presence, stillness needs to show me, okay, you show me. And of course, that can only be revealed from deep inside our body, our being, our soul, our heart. Call it whatever you will. There is something there that is alive, and that we need to turn our attention to over and over until that becomes a reality. And that does take a lot of work, right? To get all our tendrils out of that dualistic matrix. So how do we do that in our business if we are entrepreneurs and we are dependent on making money, on seeing clients, on getting speaking engagements, whatever it is? That is not so easy. But speaking from my experience, I'm not asking anybody to agree with me, but the way I've experienced it over the year, that when I really believed that my business was, to do this and help people and, do all these things to create a better world, it was that separate sense of self who was not aware that God is. And if I want to do business, then I better be that is, instead of being the is not and have to make this happen. Do you see the difference? It might be a little tricky to get it, but if you take this in and maybe sit with it, it doesn't say, God is God is separate from itself, and now it's going to do something to come back to itself. That's something that we experience in the mind. But if God is already everywhere, omnipotent, omniscience, omnipresent, right? Omnipresent, that's everywhere. Omnipotent, all power. Omniscience knows everything. So why would little Pernilla, who cuts herself off from this almighty being that she is, and then she goes out there and says, I have to help heal the world. I have to help people. And I'm not making this as a sarcastic thing. It is a little it's a little funny to see it in myself, how I have been doing that. And I must admit, the tendency, the hypnotic suggestion is still here, wanting me to believe that, so that I will go out into the matrix again and try and fix the matrix, which is just, that duality split. That is a belief that is not real. And the more I believe it, the harder I try in the world to make it happen. So making the transition from being busy to just being, right? From business to isness, being busy, doing, to just doing is not easy. I speak from experience, and I can tell you from having been such a doer, and that energy still wants to pull me in. So it's an ongoing choice that I have to make, and there's just allowing this energy to just do its thing, but not engage in it, not make a story out of it, not believing it, but just let the energy do its thing, and then it drops again. And it might come back and knock at the door, as these hypnotic suggestions do. Do you have a business where you are here to do some deep transformational work for yourself and for others? I think most of us light workers can identify ourselves in that role. So let's be really gentle with ourselves and just start noticing, how busy are you trying to get your business going? When I started out, I mean, it's kind of funny to talk about it now, but it's always been for me to just be the flow, and allow things to unfold and make myself available. And here I took these marketing coaching programs where you really learn how to market and how to make funnels and how to do this and how to reach people and get more people on your email list and all that stuff. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of us who've done that, and maybe equally many coaches who teach that. So for me, it felt like it was in some kind of a, I don't know, container that I found myself in. And I was learning it and doing it and trying it, and nothing worked, of course. It does work for some people, but not for most. And I started seeing, because I really, really didn't like it. I couldn't stand it. So at a certain point, I just had to quit, because I really saw that I was doing the exact opposite of what I was trying to bring forth. So I was a fake, right? As probably many of us are. But seeing it, it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? But that's because we keep being pulled into the matrix. And that's why it's really challenging to just be and wait for things to come to you. And we don't know what they're going to look like. But the process for me has been in just clearing out the doer, the separate sense of self in that process. And I took several years where I just stopped doing anything. I just couldn't stand it. I just couldn't stand it. So I had to find another way, to do my life. And then it started coming up again, like to share. And that's why I started my YouTube videos a little over a year ago. And I would say, in my experience, that whole I have to do something to make things happen, I literally cannot do it anymore. It's almost like it's unavailable to me now. If I make a little effort, it's like, Pernilla, that doesn't work. So what I'm still working on, if to call it work, is to really let go more and more. So so going from a business is where we work at things. so it becomes isness. So where I am just being and making myself available. And sometimes I wonder, like, why am I doing this? Nothing is happening. And then I just keep going because the temptation then is like, okay, I got to jump back in. I need to do something. But what I do is then, if I do that, then I move away from myself again, and then I'm trying to create something separate from the divine. Even though I feel connected, there is still that belief of separation that, okay, I need to stop being and start doing. So, not an easy task, but it is something I want to share here and put out as an invitation or an opportunity to really step out of the matrix in your business. I have a number of friends who are very successful with their business, but my goodness, they work all the time and they're not happy. So you can see there is a discrepancy, right? Depending, of course, what we bring, that it might work fine for somebody who really wants to help people work hard. And they're probably very, very successful, right? But for me, it's about beingness and allowing and listening and allowing that longing to show, and so it comes to me, so it's kind of being in that flow. And the flow, the river flows. It's not working hard to flow, it's just flowing. And that seems to be something I came in with. If I look in my, which is my human design, I think that is literally the one thing I'm here for. And that is to be the flow. I was going to say be in the flow, and it's like be the flow. So you see, it's again, is, God flows. It's like, it's the same thing. And that would be something we can all consider as entrepreneurs or any kind of business, to start transitioning more and more, and maybe let go of the things that may not be necessary to do. I mean, if it works for you and if you love it, then of course that might be your flow, right? And so enjoy it. But I know many where it's not working for. So it is the invitation. It's like a deeper embodiment of who we already are, but because we have all these traumas and past memories and beliefs and programs, that's still where we feel separate from the flow. And the invitation is to let go of all that stuff and more come into that flow. And then when you're in the flow, there's an absolute sweetness in there. And maybe we are not meant to be out there saving the world. I don't know. I can only tell you that the more I just flow as the flow, the less interested I am in trying to, improve the world or better the world. I'm just interested in being the flow because that's the only reality there is. So when I say in that poem, still, my business is stillness. My business is not being out there being busy. And that is the way we have been programmed to believe it. So my business is stillness. And from stillness, a lot of things can happen. For instance, like here, a YouTube channel, right? But I'm not doing it. It's here, it's flowing. I get the titles, the images, the ideas, the inspirations, and I just flow with them. And it is actually really fun. And less I worry about if it's going to do anything, if it's going to reach people. I like it. I do really enjoy when I see certain videos, really taking off. I love it. It's like, oh, this is so much fun. But I'm not making that my goal. I have to reach so many viewers or so many subscribers. But I can see the mind is still a little busy with it, but not enough to make me believe that that's what I need to do. I just need to be the flow. My business is isness. And then learn to just drop in, keep dropping in, keep allowing. When things are not working out, allow that layer that believes that you need to do something to make something happen. Let that dissolve and keep moving from isness. It's not about sitting down on your butt 24/7, although it might be for some. You will know. You will simply know if that's what you came here for, maybe to go up in a cave in the mountains or something. There are people who came just for that. So then it's right. But if it's not, if there's still that, I have to do something, and that is still my number one suggestion, hypnotic suggestion that wants to pull me in, but I'm not interested. And because I'm not feeding it, I just notice that that tendency and that energy is getting less and less. Not overnight, trust me, but it is a lot less where it doesn't, I don't have that like, I have to do something and then do it. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested. Sorry. So little by little, that whole separate sense of doer, separate sense of self, believing it needs to do it all, that's just slowly kind of dissolve. And then again, in my experience, I think that is the world we're moving towards, where we are literally being lived, we are being flowed, and then the new earth will start emerging because of how the flow flows us, how life inspires us, how we are moved to do things that give us joy, right? So we're always living in that frequency that we want to experience. We're not hoping for this and then doing the opposite, which I did with my marketing. We just keep coming back here and just say, no, here, just here, while you still do what you need to do to maintain your life. It's not about being stupid, but it's a process. Little by little, you let go of where you can let go. And you might notice a lot of the letting go is just happening in your mind. It's not that you have to do anything different. You just keep doing it. And then when these suggestions that you need to all business instead of business, then you can just maybe do the marketing from a different energy of isness. So my business is stillness, and I'm moving from business to isness. Isn't that fun? You can join me if you want.